What's going on, YouTube? Ferocity here. Hope you guys are doing well. Throwing it back today with some Call of Duty World War II gameplay because we have some news around this game. Some surprising news. Honestly, I don't think anybody could have predicted this, but Call of Duty World War II is coming to Xbox's Game Pass on June 30th. That's right. It will be the first non-COD HQ Call of Duty game to hit Xbox's Game Pass since the acquisition of Activision. I know that most of us probably assumed that we were going to get like COD 4 or World at War or any other game, but no, we're starting with COD World War II. I'm not going to try to read into this decision by any means because I don't think it matters. It's just surprising, that's all. But hey, if you do have a theory, maybe let me know down below in that comment section. I'd love to hear it. So let's talk about COD World War II, because I can only imagine there's going to be an influx of players come June 30th. It's going to be available on the Game Pass, and this is what people have been waiting for ever since that acquisition happened. There was always this hope that older Call of Duty games would become available on the Game Pass. Now, World War II is not everybody's favorite Call of Duty game, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have good elements, good ideas. You can tell that Sledgehammer Games tried to do something with this game. I just don't think it was executed very well. Now, what I don't want to do with this video today is try to rewrite history, rewrite the community's sentiment around World War II. Because I don't think that's fair to the game, and I don't think that's fair to the Call of Duty community. Because if you were around at the time, you know how polarizing this Call of Duty was. And if you weren't around at the time, well, let me paint you a picture of COD World War II. Now, one of the things that World War II had going for it right out of the gate was the fact that it was going back to boots on the ground, classic Call of Duty gameplay. That was something this community desperately wanted, and it was very clear that Activision heard the cries from this community when the Infinite Warfare trailer came out. Because that's still the most disliked trailer, I think, in Call of Duty history. I could be wrong, maybe it's not anymore. But people didn't want advanced movement for a third straight year with Infinite Warfare, so they completely overcorrected with World War II. I'm not even going to pretend that they didn't do that. World War II is an overcorrection. Doesn't mean it's bad, just means they went a little too far with it. I don't think a full reset back to World War II was necessary. But maybe that's what Activision thought after the success of Battlefield 1, was that World War II was what players wanted. But I think the memo that Activision missed with World War II was that Battlefield 1 had a certain identity that it was definitely capitalizing on. And it was kind of counterculture to everything else that was going on within the FPS genre. And World War II just felt like it was trying to piggyback off of that decision instead of trying to differentiate itself from that decision. That's not to say that World War II suffers because it's in the World War II era. That's not what I'm saying. I just think it could have been more if it expanded beyond it. That's all. But there's much more to this game than just the time period that it exists in. Sure, World War II was the time period. But how was every other aspect of Call of Duty? How were the pillars of the game? What was the campaign like? What was the multiplayer like? What was zombies like? Well, to be honest, I would say that none of them really stuck out. That was part of World War II's problem. It really felt like the franchise was playing it safe. The campaign was pretty mid. Multiplayer was pretty mid outside of a few ambitious decisions. And zombies was just not as good as what Treyarch could develop. So all of that sort of fell flat with the community. And then you add on top of it the fact that multiplayer itself released sort of incomplete. If you didn't buy the season pass, you only had access to 9 multiplayer maps and a few war maps, which was the new ambitious mode that World War II had, which I do still like to this day. I think that's one of the first things I'm going to jump back into on June 30th. It's a load of fun. Don't get me wrong. But it really felt that the game suffered from just being sort of half-baked. Stop me if you've heard that before. This game also suffered from stability problems. Stop me if you've heard that before. This game also suffered from half-assed content. Stop me if you've heard that before. But one of the cool things it did have was this thing called the headquarters. And some players hated it, some players didn't mind it, like myself. It incorporated the firing range, it incorporated some cool challenges, a 1v1 arena, an area to open supply drops, your area to prestige. It was fine, but it felt like wasted development time when the rest of the game felt so half-baked. You could have had a better campaign, you could have had better zombies, you could have had a more in-depth multiplayer experience, but instead you decided to have this headquarter area where you could watch other players open supply drops. It was clear that the motive behind this entire headquarters idea was so that they could generate more income from supply drops. So it comes off a little sleazy instead of something that could have been cool and celebrated. Because it could have been a social hub for players. It could have been something that was built upon for future Call of Duties, but instead it was just sort of, hey, here's this thing that you can open supply drops in and then earn challenges to earn more supply drops. And then you can also prestige over there and then have 1v1 fights over there. But like, realistically, the bulk of this is for supply drops. And it just, again, felt like it was there for the money and wasn't there to actually enhance the player experience. But World War II did shine in a few areas, and one of those areas was definitely the maps. I know some people will say, but it has Gustav Cannon, and you're not wrong. One of the worst, if not the worst map in Call of Duty history. Terrible map. Some will argue that USS Texas, also terrible map. I'd say it's mid. But this game also had maps like London Docks, Ardennes Forest, Sainte Marie du Mont, Point du Hoc. Some really good maps. Flak Tower. Great maps were in this game. It's just really too bad that we got so few of them at launch, and they had to rush in to try to inject this game with as many maps as possible, and a lot of it felt like cut content instead of it being brand new content that helped complement everything that the game launched with. It just felt like when the game launched with such little content that anything new wasn't going to distract people from the fact that there wasn't a ton of content at launch. That was it for me, though. Like, that's how I felt. Nonetheless, I still look at World War II as a okay Call of Duty game. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great. I think it's right there in kind of like the C tier. But one thing that I will say to brand new players that are going to be playing World War II for the first time, there's this thing called divisions, and they completely overhauled them right about now. It might have been a month or two earlier than this, but this is the one thing that I'll always give Sledgehammer credit for. They decided to do something different with the created class system by introducing divisions, which allowed players to pick between different divisions that had special abilities associated with them that gave certain classes better upgrades than others, right? Like if you took the infantry division, for instance, and you're using an AR, you got a bayonet, which meant you could do a bayonet charge at somebody and stab them, which was kind of cool, I'm not going to lie. But as different as these ideas were, I don't think they resonated with fans the way Sledgehammer would have liked. So they completely overhauled the entire system right around now. They looked at their idea, they said it didn't quite work, and instead of staying headstrong and just powering through to the end of the year, they decided to dedicate a bunch of development time to overhaul it and make it better for players. So the system that you will be playing on June 30th is their overhauled system, which might be a different system than you even remember playing if you played the game. And I will admit, it was a better game for it. So I know that it sounds like I've been kind of negative towards World War II. It's because I have a love-hate relationship with the game. I think it could have been so much more than it was, but it was still a decent departure from the advanced movement era of Call of Duty, so I didn't mind that. So with all that being said, I will be diving into COD World War II on June 30th, and I'm wondering if you will be there as well. Let me know with a comment down below, and as always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you want to see more videos from me, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.